everyone, Vincenzo Calla here, and welcome to Let's Discuss Politics. Today, I'm glad to be joined by the Ottawa City Councillor for Ward 11, Beacon Hill-Cyrville, Tim Tierney. Thanks, Tim, for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and you pronounced Cyrville correctly, so bonus points to you already. So thank you very much.
I take the LRT, so I know our transit system and I know the way things are pronounced. So it's so great to have you here. And before we start, note to the audience, as always, to make sure you're staying updated with me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at BC Productions at BC Productions 25, my website vincenzocalla.com, and making sure you're staying updated here on YouTube, liking, subscribing, and getting notifications. But I guess without further ado, let's get this interview started. Our first segment is called Tim's Story, where we'll talk a bit about who Tim is and his political history. So first off, can you tell me a bit about yourself, your story, and how you got your start in politics?
Oh, goodness. First of all, I actually never thought I would be a politician ever. I still don't consider myself a politician. Back in 2008, they were looking at a school closure in the community, and we actually vigorously fought, I should say, to ensure Colonel By Secondary School didn't close. And so we actually rallied the community. I reinstated the Beacon Hill North Community Association because basically my wife said I had to. And we fought, we won that battle. We won the battle over canceling Route 24, which is now the 224. And we also fought Hydro Ottawa. So I was a bit of a political activist before getting into this world. And since then, I've really enjoyed representing the community since 2010.
Well, and it's important to get involved in politics for causes that you find interesting. And now on to when you first ran for election in 2010. So why did you decide to run for councillor back then in that election?
Well, it was absolutely that. It was a lot of people were coming to me saying, no disrespect to the current councillor, but you're very active in the community. And when you take on an incumbent, let's face it, it's a big hill to climb if you are looking to beat them. And I wasn't doing it in a negative way. I just was pointing out the highlights of what I wanted to see within the community. I made some commitments to the community, which we've delivered. 2010 to now, my slogan's always been promises made, promises delivered. I'm a bit boring, I'm pragmatic, but I just check boxes every 4 years on what we've done, and that's how I got into it.
Well, boring is important in politics sometimes. If it's boring, it means that it's going, for the most part, it's going well and it's working. So it's important for that. And like you said, incumbents, it's hard, in this past election, I don't think any incumbents were unseated. There were a lot of new councillors joining at the table, but in this past election, no incumbents were defeated. So that just shows in municipal politics and a lot of the times how it goes.
Absolutely. And it's funny because we have 11 great new counselors at the table. And I'm the old grizzled veteran on council with gray hair now since I started in 2010. So aside from Alan Hubley and myself, we're the longest serving members now. And we're busy showing them where the water cooler is, where the coffee maker is, the photocopier is, but I'm really enjoying it.
So our next segment is called Serving as an Elected Official, where we'll talk a bit about your experiences and achievements as an elected official over the past 12 years or so. So first off, what is your favorite part about serving Beacon Hill-Cyrville as their councillor?
Well, you know what? It's a real family affair in my community. I actually live on the same street as my in-laws, and that's a good thing. My three adult children all grew up. They've moved out. My wife and I are now empty nesters, but they all two of the three live in the community. It's my sister-in-law lives 3 streets over. So, I get to hear about the community overall in general, about what people are thinking. I do like a lot of the community events and talking to people. I don't like sitting through 10-hour committee meetings, but it comes with the job. I much prefer to be out and just chatting with people, but I've learned a lot along the way. When I was first on council, I think I was a little too spicy and I didn't understand the workings of a bureaucracy, but now I know how to manage it and work with it and get things done in the community.
And now I wanted to talk about that. And you sort of had this analogy before of checking boxes and getting things done. So let's talk about that now. What has been your favorite achievement or some of your favorite achievements as a counselor over the past 12 years?
Well, it's a great question. Thank you. When I first got into politics in 2010, I promised the community going door to door. Hockey's very big, minor hockey in this community, and I was like, "We need more ice pads." And so when I got in, I thought, "Oh my God, how are we going to actually achieve this?" And with working with our city, making them understand we had a lack of ice time, we got the Richcraft Sensplex with 4 ice pads. A restaurant employs 80 people a year, and they hire local, by the way. That was my first big accomplishment, followed up by, I know you just asked for one, but I have to flag the other 3 because they're terrific, is the Pineview Community Hub. They've never had a community center. Now they have one. Pat Clark Community Center, where our 50 plus seniors club is. And we just opened the doors last month to the Beacon Hill Community Center. So it's all about community in my mind. And, splash pads are great too. We have the first solar powered splash pad in the city of Ottawa in Cyrville. So lots of good things. And I'm proud of the record we have as a team.
So we're going to go into this next segment now, which is called The World of Politics Around Us, where we'll talk about a bit about this world of politics that surrounds us. So first off, I always like to ask who is or who was another politician or politicians that inspire you as a counselor?
100%, it would be Rainer Blois. He was a counselor for Innis Ward. I met him while I was actually the president of the Beacon Hill North Community Association. They were talking about interprovincial bridges, and I got to meet him. And on top of that, we become very, very close friends. Also, Bob Manette and Eli Elshintiri, Jan Harder, they're all great people. I learned a lot from them, how to be able to be effective chair of committees, how to be able to deal with the bureaucracy and treat them fairly. A lot of people come into office and they really are not friendly with the hardworking staff we have, and that doesn't accomplish anything. So I've learned a lot from them, and that's why I think I've had a pretty successful career at this point, and we'll see how the next 3.5 years go.
Well, and it's so important, those are some big names that have legends actually really in Ottawa politics. Jan Harder was my counselor. I'm in Barhaven, so counselor who served us for 22 years, a long time, like far more than I've been alive, and so many of these other great people that have come and gone, and looking at that and building on that. And now I wanted to ask you the final question, which always takes a bit of time, and that's okay. And it's what do you think are some issues that you need to be focused on more and that you want to focus on more in the next 3.5 years?
Well, it's no secret. I think we look at other municipalities. I'm a sitting member of the FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I'm the Ontario Caucus Chair. I've been serving as that for, oh my goodness, 10 years. I get to see municipalities across the country and where the struggles are, and we're very similar in many respects. Housing and homelessness is a big issue. That is a big challenge. But there's also a fine balance about taxes, policing is become a bit of an issue. Our crime rate, unfortunately, in Beacon Hill-Cyrville, the nonviolent under 5,000 has climbed. We see a lot of car thefts. People just want to feel safe in their communities. They also want pedestrian connections. I've been working on that very heavily because the old city of Gloucester, as much as I think it's better than any other former city, didn't do a good job when it came to pathways and sidewalks. So creating those connections. So there's still quite a bit of work ahead of us, plus stage 2 light rail. And I was the chair of the library board that got it across the finish line to actually build our brand new central library that's under construction now, by the way, opening in 2026. And that's going to be a beautiful facility.
And there's so many things that you touched on there, and I wanted to ask you a bit about your work as the chair of the transportation committee. So what have you been doing in that portfolio over the past little while since you were named chair of that committee?
Yeah, so I've been chairing it when Steve Blay, our former councillor, left. I took over that role unanimously. I was selected by my council colleagues, and then again in this new term of council. I was selected. By the way, I'm going to point out it's the most popular one. I think we had 22 councillors apply to be on the committee, but we only allow 11 in because you can't have more than that. That being said, it is a very powerful and busy committee, not to be confused with transit or LRT, which I do sit on as well. But it entails snow removal, which the men and women were working very hard this year. Let's face it, this has been a circus, but throughout they're plowing hard, to pothole filling, to street resurfacing, to even the garbage trucks, street sweeping. It's a very big portfolio. We've dealt with already some very contentious issues like Wellington Street reopening, which will be opening up towards the end of this month or early next month. And, there's a lot of things on that docket, but I'm finding a lot, even right-of-way patios and having the ability, during COVID to be able to expand your patios to keep businesses afloat. So I really enjoy the portfolio. We have a lot of work ahead with the transportation master plan coming down the pipe. That's going to be the next big thing that will be coming up, I believe, at a special meeting on the 21st of April. So we have quite a bit of stuff going on right now, busy portfolio, but I do really respect my committee members. We've had a lot of unanimous votes. We all work together. This term of council seems to be working quite well.
And finally, before we go, I wanted to ask you, because I want to stop asking David Hill. I keep bugging him about it since he first knocked on my door, and November 2021 was the first time he ever knocked on my door, and ever since then I've been bugging him about this. And you mentioned road resurfacing, so I wanted to know how things go in the city. It's myself and my neighbors always ask this, and what is sort of the threshold for road resurfacing in residential communities? Because I live in an older part of Barrhaven, and our streets are very old and they're very in disrepair. So what's the threshold that is met to resurface roads, like just regular residential streets?
So unfortunately, a lot of people think their city councillor can control it and say, yes, we want this street resurfaced. Now, we certainly do have the ability during budget process to be able to highlight where we think, when they evaluate a street or request a street to be reviewed, that professional city staff will go out, engineers, and have a look at the street and make that determination. The good news is I ran on a platform, I always have, of roads, and roads, police, low taxes. And this current mayor that's been elected also ran on a very similar platform. We're definitely going to see a lot more money coming in for road resurfacing. But I've always felt that councillors should have something in the game on this one. I've been very successful in convincing city staff, and good councillors can do it if you work with city staff, to address where they're maybe resurfacing a road that necessarily doesn't need to be done, versus one that looks like a landmine field. And so, I've prioritized a lot of the roads in my area. I've been very successful on that. And the other thing that I added in is I came from an IT background, and it's a double-edged sword, but I wanted to make sure that we had all of our road networks and life cycle, because that's how they base when they do roads, put online. So we've met stage one. You can go online today and see where the upcoming roads are. Stage two, which they have to add in still, is about life cycle of roads, probably like yours, about when it's due to be complete next, or where it is in the cycle, so people can petition for, no, we feel like, look, there's a giant hole in the road. Or I'll give you a prime example, Shefford Road, which is a high traffic area, full of potholes. I think I've sent the pothole crew out at least 20 times last year. It was actually included in the budget to be able to get resurfaced. Kender in my area, getting resurfaced. These are areas that it's like we're spending more money patching holes than we are just doing a quick shave and repave. So that's how those decisions are made.
Well, and definitely you've answered my question, sort of what we've been wondering for a while, and it's important to hear that, and it's great to hear that. So thanks for sharing that today.
Absolutely.
So that is all for today. That's all for my questions today. So thanks, Tim, so much for joining me.
I really enjoyed this. Terrific job. Love what you're doing on education. As municipal councillors as well, we actually do speak to grade 5 civics and grade 10 civics classes, But the work you're doing, I think, goes a long way because people can just click and watch.
Well, definitely, and that's a big part of it, looking at it and making politics accessible and showing a good side of politics and showing the collaborative and working side of politics to the world. And that's a big part of what I'm doing. So thank you for being a part of it. And if you like this interview, make sure to go check out the other interview with Tim on YouTube for Top 10. If you're watching at the date of the premiere, it's gonna be coming out on Friday. So Let's Discuss Politics is a VCalla production. So until the next video, I'm Vincenzo Calla, signing out.